Somewhere inside a federal laptop, buried in deleted files nobody thought to check, investigators found a fragment of an email. 4 words into it, they knew exactly what they were looking at. Because this wasn't a stranger's email. It was written by a man, pretending to be one woman, pretending to be another woman. A man catfishing his own wife, using the identity of his ex-fiancée to convince the world that a monster was hunting his family. The monster didn't exist, but the woman he blamed for it very nearly went to prison for the rest of her life. To understand how a man builds a conspiracy this elaborate, one so convincing it fooled police, a district attorney, and a courtroom, you have to go back 5 years, to a condo, a breakup, and a mortgage payment nobody wanted to keep making. Welcome to the Hidden Chapters, uncovering the truth behind every crime. Her name was Michelle Hadley, a graduate student, smart, private, the kind of person nobody expected to end up at the center of a national headline. She met a man named Ian Diaz on a dating site in 2013. He was a deputy U.S. Marshal, a federal officer, the kind of job that comes with instant credibility. Badge, gun, a government paycheck. People trust men like that by default. They fell into it fast, bought a condo together in Anaheim, built a life on paper, at least. Then, in August 2015, it ended. Hadley moved out. But here's the detail that matters, the one that quietly sits underneath everything that happens next. She was still on the mortgage, still legally tied to that condo, and to him, long after the relationship itself was over. Money, a shared address, an ongoing argument neither of them could fully walk away from. That's the kind of unresolved tension that, in most breakups, just fades out over a few awkward months. This one didn't fade. It escalated into something almost nobody could have predicted. Ian didn't stay single long. Weeks after the breakup, he met a woman named Angela Connell at a Starbucks in Anaheim. It moved fast, faster than most relationships move. Within weeks, he proposed. In February 2016, barely 6 months after Hadley moved out, they were married. Angela moved straight into the condo Ian had bought with his ex. In May 2016, Angela announced she was pregnant, with twins. Everything, on the surface, looked like a fresh start. Then, on June 1st, 2016, Ian and Angela walked into the Anaheim Police Department together and reported something disturbing. Someone using the name Lilith's Truth had been sending Angela threatening emails, messages containing violent, disturbing imagery. Threats, specifically, of sexual violence against her. They told police exactly who they thought was responsible: Michelle Hadley. Ian sat beside his wife through that entire interview, confirming her account, backing every detail. At first, this looked like a fairly ordinary, if disturbing, case of a jealous ex harassing her successor. Detectives started building a file, and the messages kept coming. Angrier, more graphic, more specific. Then it stopped being just emails. Ads began appearing on Craigslist, posted, it seemed, by Angela herself, soliciting men for violent sexual role play at her own home. The ads described exactly what she wanted done to her and made clear she wanted it to look non-consensual, even if she resisted. Police intercepted 2 men on their way to fulfill that request. To Angela, this wasn't a coincidence. This was proof. Someone, Hadley, she insisted, was trying to get her raped in her own home. Then it escalated one more time. Angela called 911, sounding terrified. She said a masked intruder had gotten into her garage, shoved her against the wall. She said she'd fought him off.
911, Somebody came from behind me and shoved me against my wall and started to choke me.
Body cam footage from that visit shows a furious, frightened young couple, demanding to know why police weren't doing more to protect them. Ian, in that footage, is just as outraged as his wife, just as convinced. Within weeks, they got what they were asking for. If you enjoy deeply researched true crime documentaries, subscribe to The Hidden Chapters. Now let's look at what happened next. Michelle Hadley was arrested. Not once, twice. The second time, on charges serious enough to carry a possible life sentence. She spent 88 days in jail. 88 days for a crime she had absolutely nothing to do with. Here's what makes that number so hard to sit with. During those 88 days, somewhere else in Anaheim, the real author of those threats was walking free, being comforted by police, being treated, publicly, as a victim. And it might have stayed that way. Except detectives, working the digital trail behind those emails, started finding something that didn't add up. The Lilith is Truth account wasn't just one email address. It was more than 8 of them. Different names, different providers, all of them, when traced back far enough, connecting to the exact same place. Not Michelle Hadley's home, Angela's own condo. Angela Connell had been sending herself threatening emails for months, building an entire digital paper trail of a stalker who had never existed anywhere except inside messages she wrote to herself. The Craigslist ads, the fake intruder, all of it, her. Investigators also found something else. This wasn't the first elaborate lie Angela had told. Years earlier, she'd faked a serious medical diagnosis to people close to her, convincingly enough that nobody thought to question it. A pattern, long before Michelle Hadley ever entered the picture. By January 2017, the Orange County District Attorney was standing in front of cameras, using one specific word to describe what had happened to Hadley: a nightmare. Michelle Hadley walked free. Angela Connell pleaded guilty. Forgery, false imprisonment, kidnapping, filing a false police report. 5 years in prison. Case closed. That's how most stories like this end. The wrongfully accused walks free. The person who lied goes to prison. Credits roll. Except there was one person in this story who'd never actually been cleared of anything. Ian. The husband who sat beside Angela in that very first police interview, who backed her account, word for word, who stood next to her on that porch, furious, demanding police do more. He told investigators he'd had no idea, that Angela had done all of it herself, entirely on her own, without his knowledge. "I think Angela did it all," he told police when the frame job started falling apart. And for years, that's exactly how the story was allowed to stand. But there was a problem with letting Ian walk away clean. He wasn't just a bystander married to a woman with a disturbing pattern of lies. He was a federal law enforcement officer. And because of that, when questions about his role started circulating, it wasn't local police who picked the thread back up. It was the Department of Justice's own Office of the Inspector General. A cyber investigations team, going back through everything. Every email, every account, every device Ian Diaz had ever touched, including the laptop the government itself had issued him. This is where the case that everyone thought was already finished quietly became something much bigger. Federal investigators pulled the data off Ian Diaz's DOJ-issued laptop. Most of what mattered had been deleted, but deleted isn't the same as gone. On the screen sat a fragment, what was left of a Lilith is Truth email, the same identity that had threatened Angela, the same identity that put Michelle Hadley in a cell for 88 days. Just 4 words. An investigator read them once, then again. He stopped, Because suddenly, the entire case no longer made sense, not the way everyone had understood it for the last 5 years. This fragment hadn't come from Angela's devices. It had come from his. DOJ Special Agent Jason Higley would later put it as plainly as it could be put. This was Ian, pretending to be Michelle, pretending to be Angela. Not a wife acting alone, with a husband standing loyally, obliviously beside her. A husband constructing a fictional stalker, using his own ex-fiancée's identity. To terrorize an inbox he controlled the entire time. Then sitting beside that same wife, in police interview after police interview, demanding justice for a threat he had personally invented. Investigators found he'd used falsely registered email accounts, virtual private networks to mask his location, encrypted messaging apps, specifically to keep the whole operation hidden from anyone who might come looking. This wasn't improvised. This was engineered. Ian Diaz was arrested on May 13, 2021. 5 years after Michelle Hadley spent 88 days in a cell for a crime that, according to federal investigators, he had personally designed. He pleaded not guilty. The case went to trial. Prosecutors laid out the digital trail piece by piece. The fragmented email, the VPN activity, the falsely registered accounts, the pattern that connected directly back to a government-issued laptop he alone had access to. In March 2023, a federal jury reached its verdict. Guilty. Conspiracy to commit cyberstalking, perjury, obstruction of a federal matter. He was sentenced to more than 10 years in federal prison. Michelle Hadley lost 88 days of her life to a cell, facing charges that could have kept her there permanently. She didn't do anything wrong. She told the truth, over and over, to people who had no reason yet to believe her. And for a long time, it still wasn't enough. She only got her life back because, 5 years later, one investigator happened to open the right laptop and find 4 words nobody was supposed to find. If that fragment had been deleted just a little more completely, if that laptop had never been searched at all, Michelle Hadley might still be remembered, today, as the woman who did those things, instead of the woman they were done to.
If this case stayed with you, you're not the only one. And if you're ready for the details most people miss, there's more waiting in the full Hidden Chapters playlist.